What I did for Nas probably never been done for him in his life. He's never been that viral at all, ever. Ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life.
Hey, yo, I know you ain't talking about me, dog. You? What? You been on my dick, nigga. You love my style, nigga.
Recently, Jim Jones has been having some pretty interesting things to say about Nas, which I'm going to be getting to very soon. But you know how I do over here. We're going to go to the beginning, which means starting with what happened between Nas and Cam'ron. That goes back to 2002 when Nas dissed Cam's album during an interview on the New York radio station Power 105.1. Nas was voicing his frustration with rival station Hot 97.1 and Jay-Z, during which he mentioned Cam'ron and how he's a good rapper, but his album is whack.
Man, let's get real and be creative. I buy these people albums, you know what I'm saying? And they ain't talking about nothing from Cam to everybody. I mean, I like Cam and everything. He's a good lyricist, but the album's whack, man. You know what I'm saying? Y'all brothers got to start rapping about something that's real, man.
That album being Come Home With Me, which was released that year in May and was also Cam's first album on Roc-a-Fella. That album features the hit single Oh Boy, which features fellow Dipset member Juelz Santana. According to interviews Juelz had years after the album release, Jay-Z recorded a verse for the song as well, but Cam'ron deleted it to get back at Jay for Jay deleting his verse on the PD Crack song One for PD Crack.
Cam asked Google how you erase that shit. Google like, well, erase what? Google ain't want no parts of that shit. Yeah, I think Google told him buttons to press. Like, man, I think this how you erase songs. I don't know how you erase. Like, I'm a leave type shit. Like, Cam, you do what you want to do. You know what I mean? Cam, yeah, you never even heard that verse. You never even heard that verse, ever.
On that verse for Oh Boy, Jay apparently dissed Nas, which makes sense as this was during the time they were still in the middle of their conflict.
To answer your question, yeah, he said some bars about Nas on there. This was the time he was, you know what I mean? Him and Nas. I think this was right before Takeover. He hadn't even did Takeover yet. You know what I mean? These were like some of his first bars to Nas.
Cam responded to Nas on a radio interview of his own when he was on Angie Martinez's show on Hot 97.
Faggots talking about us. We too blessed to be stressed, man. Y'all crabs, y'all koofy cake wearing, koofy. I mean, I don't even got to talk about these. They're not even built like me, you understand? I be seeing these clowns and they be all on my joint, you understand what I'm saying? Like, Kim, I love your stuff. How you doing? Man, they don't even know how to match up their jewelry. You know what I'm saying? Like, your jewelry, you got your platinum, you know how to match it. You see stupid ass niggas with gold on and platinum. Straight like, yo, you corny, dude. And my album is hot. Talking about my album is whack. Man, Illmac to still maggot, you still a faggot. And you whack. Yo, word up, like, yo, you haven't made a hot album since, homeboy. Everybody progressing since. Easy, his album is hot. Foxy is banging. Nature is banging. What are you doing? You're the wackest in Braveheart. Your bodyguard around better than him.
That's also the interview in which he would state that he was going to become the vice president of Roc-a-Fella Records.
I don't have to make another record in my life, fam. I can executive produce and fall back if I want to. I'm the new vice president of Roc-a-Fella Records.
When did that happen?
That happened about a week ago. He's going to do a press conference next week, but I didn't even want to announce that. I could just executive produce the rest of my. That has nothing to do with me being the CEO of Diplomat Records.
After hearing the comments by Nas, Cam came with diss tracks as well, as he released the track Hate Me Now featuring fellow Diplomats member Jim Jones. The song uses the beat and title from the Nas single of the same name from his third album, I Am. Jim starts the track off talking trash to Nas and threatening to smack him, and does some more talking after Cam finishes rapping. Around this time, Jim Jones was known mostly for being a hype man and talking on Cam'ron and Dipset records. If you've been following hip-hop media in 2025, then you probably have heard Jim talk a whole lot about how he's better than Nas and all that.
I've been spanking a lot of this shit. I'm talking about the industry. I've been putting on. So let's not get into that where we get into numbers and I got to show you the statistics of what I've done. You heard to what Other people was done. You heard them. If you want to go to the Billboard entries, pull up Nas Billboard entries, then pull up my Billboard entries.
Listen, we can't compare the two. What I'm trying to tell you is
I want to go there.
Hold on.
No, I want to go down the line now, because I'll be going down the line.
Cam starts his verse off with the lines, "Hey yo, this little nigga Nas think he live like me, drove 5, shot 5, flip pies like me." Those lines are a reference to the Tupac track Against All Odds, on which he disses Nas and several others, as on the first verse of that song, Tupac has the lines, "This little nigga named Nas think he live like me, he's talking about he left the hospital, took 5 like me." Cam then goes on to have lines aimed at the females in Nas's life. He mentions Carmen Bryant, the mother of Nas's daughter, with the lines, "You're terry cloth, that means very soft, thanks Jay, Carm's the bomb, broke her cherry off." That's a reference to the Jay-Z lines from Takeover and Super Ugly when he talked about his relationship with Carmen. Then he mentions both Nas's daughter as well as his mother with the lines, "Take your daughter, R. Kelly, have my way with her face, and your mom's a whip-wop head, and you claim to be a hip-hop head? Ooh-wop, 2 shots in his hip-hop head, this way the whole world know that hip-hop's dead." If you've seen my videos talking about the most disrespectful lines in diss tracks, these lines here should be pretty familiar. The line about R. Kelly is a reference to the infamous R. Kelly sex tape, which leaked earlier that year. The lines about Nas's mother hit especially hard, however, because his mother had just passed earlier that year. "Hate Me Now" is one of my favorite Nas songs of all time, and I like Cam'ron using it to diss Nas. Not long after the freestyle, Nas had an interview and spoke about the situation in which he would say the following. To talk about people's moms and daughters, that's how you reach down and try to hurt somebody's feelings. He's lost. He's looking for a way to sell records, but he doesn't understand that he's getting used by Hot 97 for ratings and to speak up for Flex, who don't care about nobody except for himself. So once again, Nas is stating that his beef is with Hot 97, who wouldn't allow him to perform at Summerjam that year because he wanted to do a mock lynching of a Jay-Z effigy. Around this time, Dipset released the mixtape Diplomats Volume 2, which features Hate Me Now and other tracks with shots at Nas. The intro of the mixtape is a clip from Nas talking on Power 105. The track Show You How is also aimed at Nas. Cam'ron raps using the beat from the Jay-Z track of the same name from the album Blueprint 2, The Gift and the Curse. Throughout the track, Cam disses Nas for his record label contract, telling him that he's getting ripped off. He gives Nas advice on how to get off the label, like telling him to speak to Don Iyer, the president of Columbia Records, which Nas was signed to, who later went on to become the president of Sony Music, which was the parent company of Columbia. Then on the track I Really Mean It, Jim Jones talks more after Cam's verses, making threats to Nas. In response to the disses from Dipset, Nas's cousin, Nashawn aka Millennium Thug, put out a track of his own aimed at Cam and Jim, on which he calls them gay and alludes to Cam'ron losing weight because he has AIDS, which is something that would be brought up a few times throughout their conflict. Dipset came back with Diplomats Volume 3 later that year, on which they dissed Nas again. On the track Real Talk, Cam'ron speaks for over 5 minutes telling a story about Nashawn and Nas. The beat that plays while he's speaking is from the song Champions, which features Dame Dash, Kanye West, Beanie Siegel, Cam'ron, Young Chris, and Twista, from the second disc of the Paid in Full soundtrack. He talks about how a guy he knew who was also cool with Nas came to him asking for money, and implies that Nas doesn't know how to lead and doesn't help his friends. Funny thing is, Cam mentions that Nas is going to be rapping when he's 48 years old, and ironically enough, when Nas was 48, he was in the middle of his run of releasing several albums with producer Hit Boy, which were pretty much all well received. After Cam finishes his story, he passes it off to Juelz to start rapping. Throughout his verse, he takes shots at Nashawn for hanging on to Nas and not being famous on his own. After Juelz raps, Jim comes on to talk more about Nas and disses Nashawn as well. Around this time, DJ K Slay put out the mixtape Street Justice Part 3, which features the track Write Your Name by Nashawn. Throughout the song, Nashawn disses Cam'ron by mentioning his role as the Harlem drug dealer Alpo in Paid in Full, as well as again mentioning that he might have AIDS. In December 2002, Nas released his 6th album, Godson, which features the track Zone Out, featuring the Bravehearts. On Nas's verse, he sends a shot at Cam'ron with the lines, "You got a house in Virginia, the only way you sicker than us, getting bagged to 22s, now you's a ridiculous fuck, no need for the gunplay, it's okay, cause you dying anyway." House in Virginia is a reference to HIV, which Nas is implying that Cam'ron has because of all the weight he lost around this time. Cam would speak about the weight loss on the song IBS from his album Killer Season, which released in 2006, chalking the weight loss up to the condition. The 22s line is a reference to Cam'ron's arrest earlier that year, in which he was pulled over and they found a gun in the car. Then in 2003, Dipset released the mixtape Dipset Bird Gang Volume 1. On there is the track Bomb First, on which Jim Jones has the lines, "I'm a Braveheart killer, Nashawn died too, I'm looking out for Nas, motherfucker, when I find you, bitch made nigga don't deserve to breathe, or pull your skirt up when you fuck with me." Those lines are an interpolation from the track Bomb First by Tupac, which the song also samples and gets its title from. Then on the outro, Jim does some more of his usual talk and again mentions slapping off Nas's kufi, which is a pretty reoccurring thing in this beef, as he's mentioned it on multiple tracks that were aimed at Nas. Then on the track Bigger Picture, Cam'ron makes a mention of people he's beefing with on his first verse with the lines, "A little beef, a few lames fucking with me, they acting like success, it came luckily." This could be a reference to Jay-Z, as in the previous lines he mentions Dane, his friend and one of the co-founders of Roc-a-Fella, who Jay started having a falling out with. However, since he mentions a few lames in particular, this might also be a subliminal shot at rappers like Nas and Nashawn as well, who had dissed him recently. Of course, it might not be a reference to Nas at all, but given the context, it's pretty probable. Around this time, the Bravehearts had an interview with All Hip Hop in which they were asked about the diss tracks that Jim had been putting out. They responded saying that Jim is a street guy and they'll see him in the streets, and then went on to mention how Freaky Zeke got shot, Cam'ron probably has HIV, and threatened to smack Joel Santana. In 2004, Jim Jones released the mixtape Rider Music, on which he also took shots at Nas. On the intro of the track Salute Jones, he once again mentions smacking a kufi off someone's head, that of course being Nas. Jim has the lines, "Put my 40 on my side, cruise by the 40th side and look for shorty at night and just torture this guy." The 40th side is a reference to the Queensbridge projects where Nas is from. He goes off on the outro in typical Jim fashion, calling Nas gay and having more threats of violence. Then on the track Milkshake Remix, Jim Jones raps using the beat from the hit single Milkshake by Khalees. On his verse he has the lines, "Like what you bitch, I will fuck you hard, like you slut, you bitch, might call you abroad, if I crush you bitch, you'll forget about Nas, I'm a thug too bitch, so I promise no prob." Those lines are aimed at Khalees, who was with Nas at the time, and Nas even appeared in the video for the Milkshake song. Then in November 2004, Nas released his 7th album, Street's Disciple, which was a double disc album. On the title track, Nas appears to take a shot at Cam'ron with the line, "Blood and white chalk makes pink, so what's that make you?" Cam was known at this time for wearing a lot of pink, so once again, given the context, this would appear to be a shot at Cam. Then in August 2005, Jim Jones released his 2nd solo studio album, Harlem, Diary of a Summer. On the single, Summer with Miami, Jim makes a mention of his beef with Nas with the lines, "Mama said I'm lovesick over this hot-ass hoochie, and I first seen her when I told Nas I slap off his kufi, we don't play disrespect, but that was the day that we met, Summerjam '02, I hit the stage with my set." That's a reference to the Summerjam incident that I mentioned earlier. Since Nas was not performing, they had called upon the Diplomats to perform instead.
Do you remember the first Summer Jam you went to?
Yeah, that was the summer jam that it was crazy because we backstage. Nas did some crazy shit, them not performing. We had to happen to be out. We was outside giving out we was giving out VCR tapes for
whatever he was doing as promo in the parking lot, and Cam ended up getting a call. It's like, yo, y'all around, can y'all make it Summerjam? I guess Nas not performing, some shit like that. We in the parking lot. How about that?
We're already here.
That's how the universe works, you know what I mean? And that was one of the most incredible experiences because how organic it was in the way it happened and things like that. And, you know, things happen, it's moments that happen in your career that makes you know that, oh yeah, we going somewhere.
Then in 2006, after squashing their beef, Jay-Z and Nas had an interview together with Touré in which Jay was asked about Cam'ron and the line from the diss track, You Gotta Love It, in which Cam mentioned that the person who shot him in DC made the Roc-a-Fella hand sign before firing, implying that Roc-a-Fella was behind the shooting. Nas would respond by saying that it's snitching, and he and Jay would share a laugh over Cam'ron.
Does he go too far when he says or suggests somebody from Roc-a-Fella shot him?
Of course. That's just criminal. Like suggesting that somebody from Roc-a-Fella shot him. That's just like, that's snitching. That's like snitching. No, that's like straight snitching. I ain't even dry snitching. I thought that was dry snitching. I gotta upgrade the definition. But for the record, we didn't shoot him. It's hard to shoot somebody while you do that. I don't know how you do that. Like, I just don't know how you do that. Right. That's gangster. That's like in the movies. It just don't happen.
Then in December that year, Nas released his 8th album, Hip Hop Is Dead, on which Nas mentions Jim Jones on the intro track, Money Over Bullshit. On the first verse, he has the lines, put a barrel in a capo mouth till his scalp come out. You a kid, you don't live what you rap about. King poetic, too many haters to count. Capo is a reference to Jim Jones, as that's what he used to call himself. He even released an album titled Capo in 2011, and then the album El Capo in 2019. Around the time of the album release, Nas had an appearance where he was on stage speaking to a crowd, and he mentions beef with rappers like Jim Jones and 50 Cent.
The beef thing, right? The beef thing is, it ain't what it should be, you know what I'm saying? It should be really like, you should really want to hear. Right. Like, I'm not anxious to hear the Jim Jones diss record. Like, I'm not like, yo, the niggas that used to have a nigga a little nervous was like B.I.G., Pac. Right. Even Cannabis, like Eminem, them niggas used to have you like, if we go at it, dog, we gotta go hard. You know what I'm saying? But these niggas like a Jim Jones, like I mean, I respect you getting your money. You like exactly, right? But MC-wise, you not respecting his lyrical game right now. I respect his hustle. Right. I respect his hustle. That's about it.
Also around this time, Cam'ron released a track titled You Must Not Know, which was aimed at Jay-Z, and on it he has a line talking about Nas's wife. Then he references Jim's lines about smacking the kufi off Nas's head with the lines, only the cake could move me, what you want, K or Uzi, don't smack him Jim, I'ma take his kufi, you know, rip it off, quick, they get clipped and tossed, signed to Hove, what you want dog, his bitch a boss. Around this time, Cam'ron and Jay-Z were going back and forth, and also the beef between Cam and 50 had started as well. Both of those situations I've covered before, so check them out for the details. In 2007, producer and rapper Swizz Beatz released his debut album, One Man Band Man, which features the single Top Down. The beat was originally meant for Nas, but Swizz decided to use it himself. At some point, the version with Nas was leaked, and on the first verse, he seems to make a reference to the beef with Dipset with the lines, spit a few at a traitor with that new AR, try to kill me, I'm the leader, that's coup d'etat, street sweepers in that coupe all black, bitches want my chipped tooth back, steal Mac, so my kufi never gets smacked. In 2008, Nas released his Untitled album, and he released a mixtape around that time as well. On that mixtape is the song Be a Nigger Too, on which he seems to take a subliminal shot at Jim Jones again. He has the line, don't forsake us, you all are fake bloods like movie makeup. Jim is well known to represent the Bloods, so given their history, this would appear to be a subtle shot at him and possibly other rappers in the industry that were Bloods or claiming to be. Nas also recorded a song titled The Scientist, which wound up getting leaked, and on his verse he seems to take a shot at Jim again with the lines, Nasir Jones, Not a Capo, The Picasso, Word Painter, Black Sinatra, Rap King Cole, Gangsta, Point Blank, Body Armor, I'm Violence, You're the Dalai Lama, You Just Holla Drama. A few years later, in February 2014, Nas and Cam squashed the beef publicly when they ran into each other at an airport, and they spoke and took a picture together, which Cam'ron then posted online. Years later, in 2022, Cam'ron and A-Trak released the album You Wasn't There, which features the track What You Do. Throughout the track, Cam talks about things that he's done in his career, and he mentions the beef with Nas with the line, "Had beef with Nas, good looking, I weaved in ether." That, of course, is a reference to the classic diss track by Nas aimed at Jay-Z and Roc-a-Fella.
Fuck Jay-Z.
What's up, niggas? Hey, yo, I know you ain't talking about me, dog. You?
Cam has stated on multiple occasions that Nas is one of his favorite rappers, and he chose not to get involved with the beef between Roc-a-Fella and Nas until Nas dissed him directly. Then he felt like he had to respond.
To be honest, that was really one of the toughest things I had to do, to be honest, you know what I mean? Because I'm a Nas fan, man, real big fan.
Really? No, I remember you giving him a lot of respect. No, I do remember that early on.
Yeah, because I'm saying those disses at the time was like really.
Yeah, nah.
No, but I think it comes across. Jim also. So
Yeah,
like
right.
you got to check him, but like you guys were fans of him.
I'm super Nas fan. I used to, nobody really knew about Nas when he first came out because I was, I'm like the real hip hop junkie as well as trying to get money when I was young. You know, my cousin Bloodshed, God bless his day, he was big on hip hop. So, we had a lot of tapes and stuff, but I'm a real big Nas fan.
So yeah, that wraps up the beef between Nas and Cam'ron. This is where I would wrap things up. But like I said earlier, it's not just Cam that was beefing with Nas. In 2025, the beef between Jim Jones and Nas sparked back up due to several comments that were made. On June 9th, the Don't Quote Me podcast uploaded a video on their YouTube channel in which they had some college students on as guests. One of the college students stated that Jim Jones has more hits than Nas, and Jim is more influential in terms of fashion.
Bro.
Don't let
Jim Jones.
Yep.
Who was the old nigga? So you coming back into the old era.
I grew up on Jim Jones.
Okay.
Man.
You saying Jim Jones has more hits than Nas?
Now, let me put this out there. Nas is a better rapper than Jim Jones.
Okay, correct.
He's a legend.
Okay.
But if we're talking about hits, I'm from New Jersey. Balling, we grew up on balling.
That's one.
That's one.
We did not grow up on One Mic. Even though I went back and listened to One Mic, and that's a good song. It's a classic song. We grew up on balling. Summer in Miami, another level when it comes to like influence on the East Coast. Like if you did top 3 influential people regarding dressing,
But
swag, Jim Jones is top 3.
But Nas influenced Jim Jones.
Cap.
These comments sparked a lot of back and forth online with many content creators discussing the comparison. I grew up hearing both Nas and Jim Jones on the radio and all that. I remember their hit songs. However, I'm not in my 20s like the guy who made those comments, so there's two very different perspectives there. Jim Jones is more prominent on social media, so the younger crowd might see him more often than Nas, but both rappers have been putting out music for years now, and Jim has even mentioned how he was listening to Nas when he was in high school. So statements like that alone should tell you something.
I admired Nas, but remember Nas' first record, The Barbecue, came out when I was in 11th grade. So Nas was my idol when I was young. Like you did, came to dressing, the wordplay, the music, everything. I was a superior Nas fan.
Jim made an appearance on the podcast Joe and Jada, hosted by Fat Joe and Jadakiss, and he was asked about the comments. Jim would say that he admired Nas, and Nas came out when he was a junior in high school, and when he was putting out music, it was a new generation.
Period. I'd never take that away from him, but then as I got in the game, you gotta realize that your rivals would be idols, and not to take anything away from that, I developed my own style and my own lane that these kids start to gravitate towards the same way I gravitated towards Nas when I was younger and things like that. It's a whole different generation. We're talking about 94, 93, I was in 11th grade. Nigga, it's 2025.
That part checks out as Nas released his debut album in 1994, while Jim released his solo debut in 2004. Jim then went on to speak about Billboard entries and record sales.
So let's not get into that where we get into numbers and I got to show you the statistics of what I've done. You heard to what other people was done. You heard them. You want to go to the Billboard entries, pull up Nas Billboard entries, then pull up my Billboard entries.
Listen, we can't compare the two. What I'm trying to tell you is
I want to go there.
Hold on.
No, I want to go down the line now because now we going down the line. He's a rapper and I'm a rapper.
Listen.
It's not all about album sales to a lot of hip hop heads, myself included, but even if we do use that criteria, do you think Jim Jones really sold more records than Nas?
You. Are you dumb?
Later on in June, Jim made an appearance on Shannon Sharpe and Chad Ochocinco's show Nightcap. Shannon asked him about the comments in which Jim would again state that he is better than Nas and also mentioned that they were beefing back in the day, as he would mention the Kufi list, which is a reference to all the times Jim said he would smack the Kufi off Nas's head.
Remember how this goes. You ever heard of a Kufi list?
Yeah.
Yo, go back into your history and find out what happened between us and him. You dig? And I'm not trying to repeat history, but don't play with us when it comes to that, bro. We already went wild on them boys. You heard?
Shannon and Jim would proceed to go back and forth, with Shannon saying that Jim isn't better, and Jim saying he welcomes Nas to rap against him.
I don't know who told you that. Now look, I know you on that good stuff, but you're not seeing Nas.
Bro,
you're not seeing Nas, bro. Let's be real.
You got a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds in their panties because I said I'm better than
It don't
Nas.
matter.
Look at you. Look at you.
Nobody from Dipset gonna take you over Nas. Nobody from the Diplomats, but you.
Hold on, Jim. Hold on.
That shirt too tight.
Hold on.
Jim. You want to go back?
Hold on.
I really mean it. I really mean it. Started. We could go back to the history, bro.
But you didn't
Don't do that, bro. Don't do that, bro. That shirt be sticking for Nas.
I got a question.
Stick up for itself and meet me in a booth or something if we want to do something historical.
Nas say he don't do that no more. Nas say he don't do that
because he got $100 million. He's a very wealthy man. You heard? He's a very smart businessman.
Hold on.
Shortly afterwards, Jim made an appearance on the Bag Fuel podcast, and he was asked about the situation as well. He would say that no one from his era currently would want to go against him.
Currently, nobody from my era really want to get busy or go and get into the booth with me right now, currently. This is a fact, Jack. You heard? If not, they would have stood up a long time ago and holler at me, you dig? But this is where I'm at with it. My competitive nature brings me here.
He would then go on to claim that Nas has never been this viral in his life.
What I did for Nas probably never been done for him in his life. He's never been that viral at all, ever. Ever. He's never been talked about like this ever in his life.
They would also ask Jim about his back and forth with Shannon Sharpe.
You and Shannon Sharpe was going at it.
Shannon's a bozo, man. You heard? Country man is a bozo, man. NFL was the best thing that happened for you in your life, bro, because you was a bozo.
I think that would be dope, the little workout
He
competition.
don't want to get in the gym. He too old. Crickets. You heard? I break that nigga in 30 minutes.
Then shortly afterwards, Jim appeared on Angie Martinez's podcast, in which she asked him if he was trolling with the whole Nas situation, in which Jim would say that yes, he was.
And I watched the clip of you talking about you versus Nas. And I said, oh, that's just Jimmy trolling. That's just Jimmy getting the people going. But people bought all the way into it. So was I correct? Was that what it was? Or what was
I mean, you're definitely correct, but let's be correct. I didn't start it. There was a young gentleman that they asked a question to, and his viral clip went viral. It was a young kid from Atlanta. He was on a podcast, and they asked him who's more relevant, Jim Jones and Nas. And that clip went super viral, and that led all of these people at platforms
to ask
that questions. And naturally, if you're going to talk about me, I'm gonna always talk my shit. You know, I know how this game goes.
In July, Raekwon released his 8th solo album, The Emperor's New Clothes. Nas is featured on the track The Omerta, and an alternative version of Nas's verse was leaked online in which he seemed pretty aggressive. Due to the recent comments made by Jim, many speculated that Nas was aiming at Jim in his verse. Raekwon, however, would go online and refute the rumors, stating that it was already recorded and that Nas changed the verse so people wouldn't assume that it was directed at Jim.
Nas did not write that verse for Jim.
That was a straight shot Jim got hit with. And y'all made it seem like that was for Nas. That was for Jim. Nas wasn't dissing Jim. And the reason why he changed it, because he knew that at the end of the day, damn, Chef, I gave you these verses months ago, and now all this shit is popping up, which at the end of the day, he not standing on it because he's in another zone. He trying to get money. He doing this, he doing that. You know, Jim said what he said, and the fans responded, and that was that. Nas is all the way on the other side somewhere, not even paying attention to it that deep. He's not getting caught up in that. And now all of a sudden, when I'm getting ready to drop my album, Nas hits me and say, yo, Chef, I'm gonna do another verse, my nigga, because I don't know, for some reason, I think that this rhyme right here is gonna make niggas feel like I'm dissing Jim, and I'm not. You know what I'm saying? This rhyme I made way before all this shit even came up. And this is real shit, y'all. I don't gotta fucking lie to y'all niggas, man.
The Raekwon album is part of the series Legend Has It by Mass Appeal Records, which is 7 albums all planned to be released in 2025 by various rappers and producers including Slick Rick, Raekwon, and De La Soul. Then in August, Jim had Brooklyn drill rapper Fabio Foreign on the debut of his podcast titled Artist to Artist, where they talked about a variety of things. One of those being the whole Nas situation with Jim. Fabio would state that he doesn't know a Nas bar, but admits that he is a legend and they even have a song together. That being the song Spicy, which also features A$AP Ferg and is on the Nas album King's Disease.
Man, look what I just went through with the whole Nas situation and shit like that. You heard, like, it's me being me, but I know how to twist. I do these things to
better than not. I'm gonna tell you why.
No, let's not. Can
I just say why? All right, let me just say one thing. What I feel. I grew up with niggas like Sosa, Gino, and I'm not saying that the man is whack and he's not a legend and he's been out for years. So I got a song with the nigga and I got a song on the album and the album got a Grammy. But I can't sit there and say a Nas bar to you or a song, I like One Mic, or like a song that's like,
but I can.
It's not me.
So, but I understand. So that's what I want the people to know. Like, but I can, because Nas was my era.
Later on in August, Elijah, the college student from the Don't Quote Me podcast episode I mentioned earlier, debuted his own podcast titled Fraud Language, and on it he interviewed Jim Jones. They spoke about the whole viral moment and how Jim essentially capitalized off it for his business ventures.
When everything went viral and everybody was talking about the comments I said about the Jim Jones versus Nas, I never asked you, how did you feel when you seen everything pop off?
When I laughed, but I knew what it would cause. I mean, but me knowing the generation gaps between the years of how music worked, I understood fully what you were talking about and things like that. And naturally, it's all entertainment, so I come on, Cuzzo, put that thing on silent. So naturally, I doubled down and I added fuel to the fire, and we definitely went viral. We definitely fucked up the algorithm, but things like that is you know, the way I market myself and my promotional strategies. I mean, they all revolve around moments like that. You know what I mean?
Then in the beginning of September, Jim and Dice Peso had an interview on Hot 97 in which he was asked about the Fabio Foreign interview. Jim would state that it's a generational thing, making a comparison to basketball players like Michael Jordan and LeBron James.
When he said he didn't, know Nas bars.
I'm saying. I mean, but this.
You know he has a song with Nas.
He does. But that goes, let's keep it funky. That goes to show the disconnect, and not necessarily disconnect. There's two different generations that go on.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
There's people that know more about LeBron than they care to know about Michael Jordan, even though they know Michael Jordan is a legend.
Correct.
You understand what I'm saying? So isn't that vein, I believe, that he was talking. But naturally, when you're dealing with clickbait and clips, people are going to take the most powerful thing. But no disrespect to Nas. What I do is what I do. I always add fuel to the fire because we are entertainment.
So yeah, do you believe that Jim made those comments about Nas since he saw an opportunity to go viral and make some money from it? Or do you think that it stems from the previous beef between Nas and Dipset and some feelings that Jim might still have about it? I did mention earlier that Nas and Cam squashed things, but who's to say how Jim feels about it still? What are your thoughts on the beef between Nas and Dipset, and also Jim's comments about Nas? Let me know in the comment section below. While you're at it, take a minute to subscribe to the channel, check out the Patreon page, and the other links in the description box below to follow the channel on other platforms.